everybody. Welcome to today's webinar. Today is the second session in this week's Design Academy. Just as a reminder, we will be recording the session today, and once the webinar is over and the one tomorrow, what we'll do is go ahead and send out all the videos on one live link in about 2 weeks' time so that you can watch these again. For today, just to do some introductions, my name is Alexa, and I head up the customer success and service teams here for Houzz Australia and New Zealand. And I'm joined today by Giri, who is our support tech expert and works with Emma, who was on our session yesterday. So if you've ever submitted a ticket to Houzz, it would have also gone to Giri. So Giri will be running through all of our tools today. Now, we do have some new names that are joining us today. So for anyone who didn't join yesterday, what we covered was all of the account fundamentals to ensure that you're set up for success and showed how to navigate through the software. For today, what we'll be going through is project workflow and what that could look like for your business. We'll start with how to download and use the Product Clipper. That's one of my favorite tools and one of our professionals' favorite tools as well. And then we'll move into best practices for proposals and invoicing, then how to set up scheduled payments for your business, moving into purchase orders and how to keep those organized. Then we will move into how to customize the project tracker and generate FF&Es as well to send out. And then my next favorite is the power of the client dashboard. This one's huge. So I would recommend to follow along. You don't have to have your account set up in total. That's what we're doing today. So it will be an interactive session. So I encourage you to log into your profile and follow along if you haven't already. If anyone does happen to get stuck, that's why I'm here. So what you can do is privately message me. You'll notice there's a chat box on the right-hand side of your screen. There's a section that says public. That public is one where I'll go in and I'll write in something to see if anyone can see or hear us. If there's any technical difficulties later on, hopefully there's not, but I will write in there. If you have a question that you would like to ask, you'll have to put it in there's a tab that says private. Click on that and you can actually send that directly to me. And what I'll do is I'll just hold the questions that we have for each of the sections just at the end so that when Giri is done kind of going through each of those tools, I'll ask those questions to Giri, who will then answer it to the wider group. So just make sure you're clicking on that private tab. Great. So now that we know what to expect for today, I will stop sharing my screen and I'm going to throw it over to Giri.
Thank you, Alexa, for that lovely introduction. Hello, everyone. As Alexa mentioned, my name is Giri. I'm the product support specialist for Houzz Australia. And what I do is I help professionals set up their accounts when they're starting their Houzz Pro journey. And on top of that, I provide ongoing product support to ensure that the professional knows how to utilize the software, receive sufficient training, and get the most out of the subscriptions. Now, before we get started with the software, I want to give you guys a brief introduction of what Houzz Pro is all about. Now, Houzz Pro is an end-to-end business software solution designed for our professionals to better manage their business, ultimately saving them time and allowing them to focus on expanding their business as opposed to spending too much time on admin work. Now, the goal here is to run your business more efficiently and profitably. So whether it's managing your leads, projects, or financials, Houzz Pro have you covered. Now, as Alexa already mentioned, that how Houzz Pro Design Academy is broken down into 3 sessions as there are a lot of features to cover today. Now, in today's sessions, we'll take a deep dive into the project workflow. And if you joined our yesterday's sessions, where we discuss about how to set up your Houzz Pro account and explore our CRM features, you probably have an understanding of the difference between the Blue House and the Green House. But for those who are tuning in today's session for the very first time, I will quickly share my screen with you and show you the major difference between these 2 houses. Now, the visual that you have in front of you is the greenhouse. Now, what is a greenhouse? It is the public house, your public house profile. In other words, the public directory of your business where a homeowner visits the greenhouse platform and finds your profile containing your branding, the projects you have done in the past, any reviews that you have received from your client, and any insight that you've chosen to display on your profile. On the other, you have the Blue House, which is a management tool, which I've already explained, is purely internal to your business, meaning only you and the people you invite, such as your team members, subcontractors, suppliers, and of course, your client can interact with the software, and you have full control over the privacy of its operation. And in today's session, we're going to cover features from Bluehouse, aka House Pro. Now, if you are in your greenhouse, you can log into your Bluehouse simply by clicking on the button that is located at the very top, which is called Go to House Pro. That will land you to the homepage of your House Pro account. Now we'll start with our agenda for today. And the first thing we have in our agenda, how to download and use the Product Clipper. Now, before I jump into explaining what Product Clipper is, I want to give you a brief introduction of the product and the service library in House Pro. Now, our product and service library, which you can find under Manage, is the database for all your favorite products and services. And over here, basically, you can upload any products that you've used in the past or anything you have saved in your house using our House Pro Product Clippers tool. And it will be saved in your product library. You can also input any typical services that your business offers to make any document creation within House Pro a breeze. Now, there are two ways to update this library. The first one is you can manually update it by clicking on Create a New at the very top right corner, and you manually enter all this information over here. And the second one is through a Product Clipper. Now, what is Product Clipper? The Product Clipper is simply an extension for your Chrome browser, which allows you to source product information and update it from the House Pro product library with very little effort. Now, basically, it saves your favorite pieces from any vendors to the product library. Now, to explain further, all relevant product details such as the images of the items, the descriptions, and the prices will be saved using this tool. You can even pull any additional details such as the dimension, the SKUs, and the manufacturer, which your supplier will love when you send them your purchase order, adding all this information. Now, when you can pull this into a project and you put them together in House Pro, all this information get pulled from the product that you source using the clippers. Once you click and save, the product will be listed in your product and service library and can be used for any future project. Now, please do keep in mind that this is only available for Chrome browsers. So if you are on any other browsers that is not Chrome, I highly recommend you to install Chrome in your device in order for you to start using the extension. Now, to get you started, the first thing you have to do is download this extension. And you can do so by finding the articles in our Help Center, by going to the Help Center from Help at the very top, and simply search for Clipper. And you will see one of the articles called How to Download Clipper. Follow along, and you'll have all these steps that you require to download the Clipper. And you'll have the link, which you can essentially use to install the Clipper. Now the Product Clippers is installed in your browser. It would look something like this. So you see a leaf icon sitting at the very top. Also, to further confirm, you can hover over to any images on the website, and you can see that leaf icon sitting at the very top right corner, which means that the Clipper is installed in your browser. Now that it is installed, you can start clipping. To start clipping, simply click on the leaf icon, and the image will be saved at the very top. Now, you can save up to 5 images using the Clipper tool. Now, do keep in mind that the first image that you install or clip into the Clipper tool is extremely important, because this will be the default photo that will appear across all your documents. Also, it is important to have a white background behind the photos, because essentially you'll be able to use these items in any of the design tools that we have available in House Pro, which especially the mood board. So if you have a white background, it'll be super easy for you to put them together. Now, once you have all these photos sorted, the next thing you have to do is fill out all these information. The next thing we have is product title. Now all you have to do to select, to enter the product title is just to highlight the title, and what it'll do is it'll give you these drop-down options. All you have to do is you have to tag it to a certain field, and it will automatically populate the field. Now it's important to add the identical name of the product, because when you're sending the purchase order to your vendors or suppliers, it will be super easy for your vendor to locate this product and give you faster quote. The next part you have is the pricing part, where it's divided into 2 different components. One is cost and the one is markup. Now, the costing is the price that you pay to source the product. Now, many designers, I know that you have your own trade login, which give you access to discounted pricing. So if you want that pricing to be shown, feel free to go ahead and log in before you start clipping. Let's say you have the pricing. All you have to do is highlight and tag it as a cost. The next part we have is markup. If you're someone who already know the markup or percentage that you like to charge, you can go ahead and add that. You also have the option to add the whole amount, which you can add by clicking on the calculator icon over at the very top, and you can enter the price manually. So say I want to charge $12,000 for this, and you'll see this markup is added at the very top, and then you'll see the net price highlighted in the green text. Now, once that is set, the next component is GST. Now, do keep in mind that when you tick this box, this add that whatever percentage you add to the GST to both component of this pricing. So if you're someone who doesn't pay or want to add GST to the costing amount, feel free to untick this box, and you can always add the GST manually from the document itself. And next is description. We follow the same procedure, just highlight and tag. So it's really important to understand that all these fields are extremely important to have the information field, because the more information you add at the very beginning, the better it is for you to locate this product in the product library. Also, you will have all this information ready to go whenever you're creating any sort of documents, whether it's proposals, purchase order, or even finding it in your project tracker. All this information will be displayed. So the better information you have, the beneficial it is for you to manage the product in the future. So you'll go ahead and add the categories and suppliers. So now it's really important to add your suppliers at the very beginning, because say, for example, you're creating a purchase order and you're converting any of the proposals or invoice into a purchase order. So if you add these suppliers beforehand, you don't have to manually enter your suppliers for each of the items. So I highly encourage you designers to add these at the very beginning. Now, next thing we have is you have the opportunity to tag it to a project. We recommend the approach to add a specific item from the project dashboard rather than here, which gives you better flexibility when it comes to using that product in the future. But you also have the option to tag it from here. Now, if you have all the information and you add that to all this field, all you have to do is just save it. And what it does, it will give you a congratulations notification, which means that it's added to your product library. So if I go ahead and check that in my product library, it's sitting over there, as you can see, with all the information I've provided in the Clipper. And that's pretty much to know about Product Clipper. Now, here are some of the benefits of using the Product Clipper. Now, you no longer have to waste hours hunting down for your favorite product online every time you take on new projects, because the Clipper tools essentially is designed to substantially reduce product sourcing time, which means that no more manually adding products and their details from multiple sources, which can be time consuming. Also, it saves pictures for every items to your database, making it much easier to make design choices in the future. And lastly, you never have to search for the same product online over and over again. Once you source it, it will sit in your library, which you can use for any future project. Now, before I move on to the next section, is there any questions from the audience?
Perfect timing. We did actually have one that came through. Someone has asked, can you add the default add GST in settings? Because I know sometimes professionals can forget to add that and then they're having to backtrack. So what do you do in this case?
Absolutely. So you can set a default setting at the very beginning from the account settings. So all you have to do is go to this cog icon and go to all settings. So what it does is you can set up a default settings at the very beginning of your documents. So all you have to do is go to account settings, locate your business documents, and go to accounting. And when you go there, you have the option to default set your GST. So you can add inclusive or exclusive. So if you choose any one of these options, it will be by default for any of the items that you add on any of the documents in HousePro.
Perfect. Thanks so much. So we've got another one. If we are using the Clipper on a trade website, we enter a cost and don't tick GST.
Mm-hmm.
But then it doesn't apply tax. So rather than creating a cost exclusive of GST, this then makes our proposals incorrect because it hasn't included taxes on top. Do you have a suggestion on that?
That's a great question, by the way. And GST is a broad term that is very hard to cover in this one small questions. I'm more than happy to connect with you after this and do a one-on-one and explain you over that. But what it essentially does is this: when you include this GST, it adds GST to both this component. And if you leave it unticked, that's fine. You can always go over to your documents, which I'll cover in the next part of our agenda, where I'll be covering the proposals and the invoices. And I'll be showing you how you can add the GST there. But as I said, it's a long topic, which can be covered after this session.
Perfect. Thanks so much.
Great. Are there any more questions?
No, we don't have any more at the moment. But yeah, I would definitely suggest, I think that one specific to business, I think definitely we can have a call set up after to go through how to best do that for your company based on how you would apply that to your documents.
Perfect. Well, so moving on, the next part of our agenda is the best practices for proposals and invoices. Now, we'll start on with proposals first. Now, with HousePro, you can easily add any products and services from your library into a proposal with just one click. Information such as item descriptions, photos, product cost, and client data are automatically pulled into the proposal. Now, there are a few ways to create proposals in HousePro. The first way is from the proposal dashboard, which you can find under Manage and Proposals. So what you see on the screen is all the proposals that you've created for all projects, active or archived in HousePro. But by default, it is an active view. Now you have the option to create a proposal from here by clicking on Create a New Proposals. All you have to do is link it to a project or a lead. The second option is doing it through a project tab, which is selecting a project, for example. And from the left-hand side, navigate to Proposals. And all you have to do is create a new proposal from here. Now, there are three ways to create proposals in HousePro. The first one is from the scratch. The second one is you upload your own proposals in the form of images or PDF. And lastly, from a template that you save within HousePro. So for this demonstration purpose, we'll create one from the scratch. Once you open it, as you can see, you're given this UX UI. At the very beginning, you have the general info, items, and so on. So in general info, basically, you have information regarding your companies on the left-hand side, and up to the right, you have information about your clients. Now, the beauty of HousePro is that all these sections are highly customizable, meaning if you ever need to change any of these details or information from here, you certainly can do so by clicking on this box. Now, the next part is the title of the proposals, which is also customizable. So if you like to give it a unique name, you can go ahead and do so by clicking on the box and write your own name or give it your own heading. The next thing is you add a unique code to the proposals. So by default, it's given a code, but if you're not happy with it or if you want to change it to something else, you certainly can do so. And our software will give you a recommendation on what code that has been recently used for you to better pick a number. And similar goes on for the subheading as well, which is also editable. On the right-hand side, you have the dates, due dates, and the date creation date, which you have the option to set beforehand. And the last part is the proposal status, which is extremely important because if you're ever unsure about a status of a proposals from this view, you can always go ahead and check this part and see whether it's draft, approved, or sent. Now, the next part is adding items to your proposals. Now, the best way to add items to your proposal is by clicking on Add Items on the very top right corner. And when you do that, it will have you this expanded view of your products and items. Now, there's two icons to keep in mind. The first one is the sofa set icon that is at the very top, which means that all the products you have sourced or linked to this project will be sitting down here. Let's say you forgot to add an item or link an item to this project. You can still have access to that from this light pendant icon. All you have to do is click here, and that will give you access to an entire library, which you can further sort out by using the search box or filter options. Now, when you're ready, you can go ahead and add some of these items. When you add them, as you can see, you see all the images of the file. And as I mentioned, like in the clippers, it's really important to add the first pictures of your product wisely. As you can see, that's the default pictures that's shown in the document. And also you have this description that you've added, the headings, and so on. Now, the beauty of HousePro documents, especially proposals and invoices at this stage, is that how customizable it is in terms of managing your columns. So say if there's certain columns that you don't want to show or want to show in the documents, you can certainly choose that, or you have the full control over it. So all you have to do is go to settings, and then you have the choice to have that on or off from the document. Not only that, you also have the option to change the order of the column by simply dragging the column and holding it from the left and dragging it up and down. So in that way, you can display the information that are relevant to your client. Now, once you're ready, you can go ahead and save it, and this will be saved. Now with the markup one, if you think that the markup has changed since you last sourced, you have the option to change that as well from the document itself as well by simply clicking on this calculator icon, and then you can go ahead and change your markup from here. Now with the GST, we had a question in the past. So say if you don't want to include that GST from the product clippers, all you have to do is come here to your documents and scroll to the right. And as you can see, the GST rate is there. And if you can't find that column, you can always check your settings and see if the GST rate is ticked. Now, if that's ticked, it will show up over here. And as I mentioned, from the account settings, you can set up your GST by default. So I added 10% GST, and that's why that GST 10% is showing, and it's also excluded from this product. So this is one of the places where you can add a GST manually. Moving on to the next sections, and once you're done here, the next part is the payments. Now I know that the payment schedule part is later in our agenda, but we will cover it now because it will help you to understand what to come in the later part of this section. So this is what a typical payment section looks like in proposals. So you can have the option to request for a deposit at the very beginning. And in usual practice, many of our clients ask for 25%. You can go ahead and do that, or you can add the whole amount. You have the option to do both. You also have the power to set up your payment terms and due dates. Once you're ready, the remaining amount, you can split it into as many payment schedule as you wish to be by clicking on scheduling a payment. And as you can see, it creates multiple payments, and all the calculation is done in the backend for you. The next thing is you set up your terms like you did for your deposits. And all the necessary information, including the due dates, the status, all it can be found in this section. And that's how you can schedule your payment. Now, the next part is getting paid. And we all know how important that is. So there's a couple of ways you can get paid in HousePro. The first one is through online payment. So if you attended our yesterday session, you have a better understanding of how to set up your online payments and the cost associated with it. But online payment is essentially a way which activates an online payments portal in your documents, and your clients can have the option to pay you via credit card. Now, do keep in mind that there is a 1.4% transactional fee attached to it, which is charged by the third-party application called Stripe. So there's every time your client decides to choose that option, that 1.4% transaction fee is incurred. But you can always on-charge that back to your client, and that's a really popular question we get from our pros, is by adding a line items here in your documents as a transactional fee cost, and you can on-charge that back to your client. But if you're someone who doesn't want to go to that trouble and want to follow conventional way, which is simple bank transfer, you can certainly add your banking details here at the bottom of your payment sections. Now, this section usually in most of your proposals by default called memo, but I've changed it to banking details, which you totally can. All you have to do is click on the name where it says memo and change it to banking details. So what it does is your clients have a better understanding of where to look for all the relevant information when they are ready to pay you. So over here in the memo section, you can add all the information such as your account details, your BSB number, and so on. And you can set that up as a template. And let me show you how you can utilize My Templates options in your Housepro account. All you have to do is click on My Templates at the very bottom corner. And over here, you can create a new template and you can give it a title as you wish it to be. And you can add a body here, whatever information that you want to convey to your clients through this document. Once you're ready, you can always set that specific template as your document default template for a certain section by clicking on this set as a project default option at the very bottom, and then tick all the documents that you like that template to get included in. So for example, this is a proposal. So let's just say I want to include that for proposals. All you have to do is tick and save and add. Now, since I already have one added, all I have to do is just go ahead and add this one. As you can see, it's sitting down here. Next section of the proposal is the files. Now over here, if you think that these information are not enough, you want to add more content, for example, a mood board or any other files or inspiration you'd like to add, you can utilize our file section here. So in our file section, we accept majority of the files, whether it's a PDF, image file, or even a video file, you can upload it here. And whenever you send this to your client, they can essentially download these files into their local device and watch that. The next part we have is TNC. Now we understand majority of our business have our own TNC. So all you have to do to add your TNC is follow the same procedure that I've shown you in the memo section. Go to My Template. And if you have your own, go ahead and create a new one. Give it a fancy title if you wish to. And then all you have to do is select this for a specific document. Now, since I already have that added, it's already there. But say if you already have a few of these templates ready to go and you want to select it from this window as a default, all you have to do is click on these three dots. And from here, you also have the option to set that for multiple documents as a default TNC. And you can apply this process for any My Template options within any documents in Housepro, whether it's sending an email templates or any of these specific sections. This is the same procedure you can follow. The next part is the signature part, where you can add your signature here digitally. And also you can have the option to have that signed by your clients when they approve it. So for example, if you're ready to send this to your client and they approve certain items and they're ready to go ahead and start this project, the very final step of approval is to have these documents signed digitally, and they will do that. And you can choose this to turn it on for them to have this feature activated on their end. Now, the very last part, and I personally think this is the most underrated part of the documents in Housepro, is the activity stream. Now, I cannot stress how important activity stream is for any of your documents. It helps you to better collaborate with your teams. So what it does essentially is that any actions that you do with this document, whether it's sending it or accepting or logging a payment, or even seeing if your client has seen your proposals or any documents or not, all these things get logged automatically in the backend for you in the activity stream. And you can tell by seeing the headings on the left-hand side and the timestamp on the right-hand side. So in that way, if you're ever confused about what happened to your proposal or any of the documents that you have within Housepro, you can always go ahead and check out the activity stream for further information. Now that we're done constructing your proposals, the next thing we're going to do is share it with your client. Now, there are a few ways to share your proposals or any documents with your clients. The first being is you copy this link as a URL, and then you send that URL to your clients externally. So what it will happen is when they click on that URL, it will open a browser tab. And on the browser tab, they have the option to approve or decline that proposals or any of the documents that you send. But our preferred method is through the second one, which is preview and share. So that's the second option. of sending this document to your client. But before I go there, I want to clarify a couple of things for you, is that if you click on this copy link, do keep in mind that once you click here, this status of the proposal automatically change from draft to send. So if you ever confused that, oh, I haven't sent these proposals, but it's showing me the wrong information, but it's not the case. You probably have copied the link, and that's why it's automatically triggered that other logic. So the second option to share your document is preview and share. And over here, you get a glimpse of what it looks like from your client's end. So you have all these options that you've just drafted, your payment scheduling, your banking details, TNC, and so on. Now, the beauty of House Pro is that you have full control over what your client will see. And you can choose what information to add to your documents by simply clicking on the settings option at the very top. And from here, you can select or deselect option that you wish your client to see or not see. Now, when you're ready to send it, click on share. And as I mentioned, there is a preloaded template ready to go for you with subject line. And to set this up on your end, all you have to do is follow the same step that I've shown you in the memo. All you have to do is create a new or select the existing one and set that specific template as your default for certain documents that you send through House Pro. So exact same process. You also have the option to share a copy of this to yourself by clicking this box. And then when you're ready, you send it. And your project is sent. Now, I'll show you quickly what it looks like from your client end. So I'll just copy this link from here and open it from a different browser. As I mentioned, when your client click on this URL, it will open another browser tab. And this is the view from your clients. And this is what they see. Now, as you see, you have a glimpse of that in the preview part of your edit section of your proposal. Now, if your client has time or is tech savvy and go ahead and then approve certain things, they can do so by ticking and unticking this. And in that way, they will see the status. And whenever they're ready to submit this, the sign window will appear, which I've shown in the past, that this is what happens when you switch on the electronic signature. Now I'll show you another way you can approve your proposals. Now, this is from your client side of it, but say your client doesn't have enough time and the client wants you to approve it on their behalf, you can certainly do so by going to more action from the edit view and then approve it. Now, we also have the option to approve it by line items, which you have done in the past. So say tick, untick, and then you save it. And as you can see, this status has been approved and shared. And you can always go ahead and check your status from this section of your proposal. Now that you approved it, the next part is the payment section. So I'll come back to scheduling payment. Now that you've scheduled all your payments and you jot down all these terms, all you have to do is log the payment. So say you received your deposit upon approval and you received it manually, then you have to log it also your payments manually. But if you receive it via online payments, the software does it for you automatically in the back end. But to log the payments manually, all you have to do is click on the log payments at the very right-hand side, and it will ask you to select the method that your client used to pay you, and then add the reference number, which is usually your document number, just for verification or reconcile purpose. And then you can also have the option to send receipt to your client by clicking on send receipt box at the very bottom of it. And once you're ready, click on done. And that's how you log a payment. Now the next part is creating a template from your proposal. All you have to do is more action and save it as a template.
Hey,
that's yes.
Sorry, I'm going to stop you here because we do actually have some questions going back to like the signature and the document. So I want to get those answered just before we move on, and then we forget these ones.
Certainly.
So the first one I've already answered to one of the professionals in the chat, but I would think it's good for the wider group, so I can answer this. But the question was, can you see the activity stream in the home section of House Pro rather than going into each document? It's a great question. The answer to this is that no, every document has their own activity stream. And so you have to click into the document to see that. However, I could see how this would be useful on the homepage. We haven't had anyone put this through as a request before, but what we'll do after this session is put through a product request for this to see if that's something that can get added for everyone. That way you can see all of the projects and all of the streams of where they're at. Another one is, I think there was, people were asking if you could just show the digital signature part. Do you mind going back to that section on that page? Gary?
Absolutely. So to do that, all I have to do is save a template and create a new one. Since this proposal has already been approved, all I have to do is create a new one that hasn't been approved.
Perfect.
And then now that you save that template, all you have to do is go back to the project tab.
Great. So while you do that, I can speak to this. So basically, one of the questions was, in the digital signature, is there a way to have more than one signature? Basically have more than one person sign it? And the answer is no. We only allow for one person to sign that document. But I do think it would be good just to go back over that section so you can see, make that more clear. So
as you can see, this is the section of electronic signature. You can edit this by clicking on this pencil icon, and you have the option to have this written as your signature. This is your signature, just keep in mind. And you can also have the option to customize the client signature title and your own title over here. So once you save that, you share this with your client. I think I've already shown you that. So all you have to do is, all your client has to do is approve and then give their own personal signature. And then save it. And once they sign it, it approves the proposals, and you can see that from your end by refreshing it. And that's
your signatures look better than ours.
Yeah, absolutely. There you go. So that's your signature, client signature, sitting there at the very bottom of your document.
This is, just so everybody knows, to add to this creates a really good client experience for your homeowners that you're working with, because they're not really expecting to have this professional looking document sent to them and have it be so easy to sign. I think a lot of people are expecting to have to print it out, read it, go through. But when you can send everything all in one place and they just have to do a digital signature, it's such a great user experience for them. And that's what we hear quite a bit on the other end. So I highly recommend to use this tool and to make sure that you are using the digital signature. Well, if you're creating the document, then I would assume you would be, but use this if you aren't already. We get a lot of really good feedback about this, as well as the activity stream, as Gary said, so important. It gives you more control of knowing where each of your projects are at any stage. And so you feel, if someone hasn't gotten back to you, for example, and signed something, you're probably questioning, well, are they thinking about something, questioning it? I don't know. This is your chance to then follow up with them and be like, oh, I wondered if you happen to have any questions. So you are more in control over this process than maybe what you would have been otherwise. So definitely use this if you haven't.
Beautiful. Thank you, Alexa. So we're at the very end of the proposal. So next step is to create an invoice. Now, the beauty of the House Pro documents is that once you have an understanding of how proposal works and the layouts, you can easily work out how to create a better invoicing, because all the sections that you have within these invoices are identical to the proposals. Now, there are a few ways you can create invoices in House Pro. One is from the project dashboard. Another one is from the invoice dashboard, but you can directly create an invoice from the proposals by clicking on the create invoice button at the very top. Now, when you do that, there was a few payments that I created that hasn't been paid yet. So the only payment that we received so far for this document is just a deposit. So question might arise in your mind that what happens to the rest of the payments? Like, how will I get these payments? So if you convert that into an invoice, all those unpaid payments get taken over to the next document, which is going to be your invoice. So all you have to do, and as the software does it for you is it transfer all the payments for you. And when you confirm that, this whole invoice is created and you don't have to fill out any of the information because all this information were filled in the proposals. Now, as I mentioned, I'm not going to go too deep into the how to set up your invoices because it's identical to proposals. All I'm going to show you is the few of the features that are really relevant. The first one is the issuing your invoice. Now, many pros have this question that when we issue the invoice, and my answer is that you issue an invoice at the very end of your projects. So once you receive all your payments, then you issue this to your client. Because when you issue the invoice, what it does is it logs the documents for you. So if you want to go ahead and make further changes to that document after being issued, you can't do that. So that's why it's really important for you to issue it at the very end. And once you issue it, then this document get automatically synced to your Xero if you're using a Xero integration with your Housepro account. And that's pretty much to know about your invoicing. Now, some of the benefits of using our invoices that our designer have found that it helps them to get paid more quickly and on time. And also professional invoicing system that lives up to the brand reputation. And the homeowners also love the transparency of this whole entire document. Now I'm going to move on to the next section. But before I do that, Alexa, is there any question in relation to invoicing?
I haven't had any come through, but now that you ask, I might have a couple. So if I do, I'll just pop in and have you go over those. But feel free to move forward, Gary.
Beautiful. So next part of our agenda is how to use purchase order and stay organized.
Sorry, Gary, I do have one.
Yep.
Can we have automatic invoice numbers?
That's a great question. Yeah, we are currently working on that. So the automatic invoice number only gets generated at this stage when you issue the invoice. But as I mentioned, it's in the product pipeline and we're going to be introducing it very soon.
Yes, so TBD on that one very soon. The other one is, should you be reconciling your bank statement with your proposal or your invoice? Which one's your source of truth as the payment gets made via the proposal? Is what she's saying.
Another excellent question. So as an invoice is always the way to go. It's more legal than proposals. Proposals is more of an estimation and quote. But since many of the designers wants to get an advance payment deposited at the very beginning before they go on with the project, that's why we let the payment component in the proposals. But with that being said, to answer your question, invoice is always the way to go. Also, both these documents, either proposals or invoice, get synced to Xero. So if you have any payments that is attached to any of the proposals, it will also get synced to Xero and you can reconcile it from there as well.
Perfect. Hopefully that answered your question. Thank you so much, Gary.
Beautiful. Moving on to the next section, which is the how to use your purchase order and how to stay organized. Now, nothing is worse than having to create 10 different purchase orders for 10 different vendors when completing any projects. Now, Housepro, what it does is automatically generates your purchase order for any projects. And no matter how many companies you work with, a clean and a professional purchase order will automatically be generated for each one. And all you need to do is to select the vendors from the products, and the email will go to each of the vendors with just one click. Now, as I mentioned, there's a few ways to create purchase order. One is from under the Manage tool, from the master dashboard, or also from the project dashboard as well, like you did for proposals. But did you know that you can also create purchase order from both of this document, whether it's proposal or invoices? You can directly interlink these documents with each other. To do so, all you have to do is click on More Action and click on Purchase Order. What it will do is all the items that you have within the invoice, it will create a purchase order for those items. And since you have, as I mentioned during the Product Clipper, part of our agenda is that you always add the suppliers. You try your best to, in that way that the software automatically populates the supplier field at the very beginning. As you can see, whenever I try to create a purchase order from any of this document, if I have those information filled at the very beginning, it does the job for you. Now click on Purchase Order. And since it's from 3 different vendors, 3 separate purchase order will be created. Now I will explore one of them to show you a little bit of the layout of the document. So at the very beginning of the purchase order, you have the document details, which is the supplier, which is automatically filled. The second one is the shipping address. Now, I understand many designers doesn't necessarily want the product or the item to be shipped directly to the clients for confidentiality purpose. So if you wish to, you can always add a separate warehouse or a separate address over here where you can ship that product to directly from your vendors. If you don't have that saved over here, you can always add a new address from this field. Now the layout, I understand it looks a bit different than what you saw in proposals and invoices. Now do keep in mind that we're doing major changes to this doc very, very soon, where it will look a lot similar to the proposals and invoices, meaning you'll be better able to customize each of the sections on this document. But for now, this is the typical layout. You have all the details of the product. And as I mentioned previously, it's really important to add all these information such as the manufacturer, the SKUs. So the more information you put, the better informed your supplier gets when they receive this purchase order. And it makes the quotation process faster, resulting in you getting this job done faster. Now, the second thing is these typical layouts. And as I mentioned, very similar to what you saw in the proposal. You have the file section, TNC, and memo. On the right-hand side, you have order tracking. From here, you can set up the status of the order by selecting it from the drop-down. So in that way, you better organize and better manage a certain project. At the very top, when you're ready to send this, all you have to do is preview and share and just send it. And you can also CC it to multiple recipients. Now, when you're ready to share this with your client and you send it, suppliers, your supplier will receive this in the form of email and they will send you the code externally via email or any other communication. Now, that's pretty much to know about the layout of the purchase order. One last thing is at the very top, you have this typical information, and you can also see the linked document. Like, for example, if you want to know where this purchase order was created from, you can certainly choose those options from hovering over to the link document and clicking there. And you can see that this item has been featured in 2 of these previous documents in the past, and you can directly land it from here. Now, once you're ready, you can go ahead and mark it as billed if you're ready, if you receive the code and if you move ahead with the purchase. And once it's billed, you can successfully log payments. And you add all these methods, put your PO number and payment date, and you create that. Now, once you log a payment to purchase order, it will sync that document to your Xero. Again, if you have the Xero integration installed as a billing document, which you can reconcile or adjust in your accounting software. Now, this part of the layout of the purchase order is done. Some of the benefits that our professionals have seen using our PO is that it extends your ability to manage projects and businesses in all aspects, whether it's from a client-facing activity or vendor-facing activity. You have everything under one place, and that's the beauty of the PO. And by using purchase order, you can control your orders and send orders to your vendors and gain control of your financials. And also, you save time and increase productivity by easily converting your proposals and invoices to a purchase order, which I've shown you in the past. And lastly, it's easy to track and organize all your purchase orders in one convenient location. And thus, that's all I have to say for purchase order. And before I move on, are there any questions?
I don't have any questions that would be related for the wider group, but I've gone ahead and sent something to someone individually about a feature that we used to have, don't have, but will be coming back. So,
fantastic. Do let us know if you have any further questions. Now I'll move on to the next section. The next part of our agenda is how to customize your project tracker, generate FF&Es, and more. Now, what is a project tracker? Now, project tracker is the heartbeat of your project. And anything that you do with a project is stored in your project tracker. you can easily find your project tracker from any of the project dashboard and then simply locating it from the very left-hand side. So it is something that you never have to manually come and update it. But if you want to, you also have the option to do so by adding items from here. Also, the automatic addition is done in the back end. Now, for example, say you want to clip an item and then you want to link that to this specific project. So I'm going to go ahead and clip another item. So say I want this sofa in a different color. I'll start clipping. And then say, I just want to quickly write all these things, descriptions. Now I tag this project, this item to a specific project, for example. Say, so that project name is Joey's bathroom renovation. I go ahead and find that from the drop-down list. And room is optional if you want to, and then I save it. So what it does is if I go ahead and refresh this page, keep your eye out for here, you'll see that that specific item has been updated and sitting at the very top. So that's the beauty of Project Tracker, is that it saves all the items that you link with a specific project automatically on this list. Now, this list is expandable to the right, and you'll see some of the columns are empty. There are two reasons for that. The first one is probably that product hasn't gone through the entire life cycle of it. So that means that it hasn't been shipped yet, or any of these other details hasn't been inserted for that product yet. The next one could be those information were missing when that specific product was clipped to and updated in the library. So they're the two reasons that those information might be missing from your project tracker. Now, if this view is too overwhelming for you, if you like to minimize the view, you certainly have the power to do so by simply clicking on Customize Table. And from here, you have the option to decide what information you choose to leave it on and off from the project tracker by simply switching it on and off. It's the exact same thing we have done for our proposals. Also, you have the option to change the order just like we did for our proposals. And you can prioritize whatever is important for your view. Next thing is, if I can understand that this project tracker can have hundreds of items at a time, and it can be really overwhelming for someone to navigate and narrow down the search. So feel free to utilize our search bar at the very top. Say, for example, I want to find out how many exact chairs I have sourced for the specific project. All I have to do is go ahead and search chair in the bar. And as you can see, any item that has chair as a heading will be shown on this list. You also have the option to filter them out via states, status, types, and so on. So feel free to use this filter option at the very top to narrow down your search. Also, one of the major feature of this tool is that you have the option to download the FFA niche schedule. Now with the FFA schedule, it's also highly customizable, and you can decide to choose the information that you'd like to leave on the proposals or on the FFA sheet. So say, for example, you're downloading this piece of information for your client, you can go ahead and untick the vendors and suppliers information so that your client doesn't see those in this sheet. Now, once you're ready, you download it. What it does is it sends that to the login email ID, and you'll be getting it as a mail. And from there, you can essentially download it. Now, that's all to know about the project tracker. Now, some of the benefits are it keeps track of your items in one central place and smooth out any issues quickly by simply locating any items from here. Also, it shares the tracker with your team for better collaboration and allowing you for more efficient communication and project management. All right, so since Alexa isn't here, so I'm just going to continue with the rest of the presentation. So moving on to the next part of our agenda, which is the Power of Client dashboard. Now that I have an understanding of the majority part of our project management tool, I want to highlight this feature to you, which is one of the things that we hear from all of our professionals is that how much time they spend each week updating their clients on where the projects are. Now, these features are going to show you is designed to address this issue. Now, the Client dashboard is basically, it cuts out all the extra time that our professionals spend on informing their clients on their projects. So it eliminates all the elements of unknown from your client's perspective by having all the relevant information under one dashboard. Now the question is, what informations are there in the client dashboard? So this is what a typical client dashboard looks like. Now, upon opening it for the first time, you also have the option to share this with your client via email or via link, which will create a unique link that you can share externally with your client. Now, if you want to share that via email, you can go ahead and send it, and they will have access to all this information within Client Dashboard. So they will be able to see any past messages that you have sent via House Pro to them, any kind of financial documents that you have shared with them. I'm sure you get this question a lot from your clients that, hey, where's my proposals, or can you resend me that invoice again? So in that scenario, you always can recommend your pros to have this Client Dashboard saved somewhere and have all this information pretty much downloaded from this platform. Now, I personally love bookmarking things. So I would highly suggest you advise your client to bookmark this link in the browser whenever they receive it. In that way, they never have to go back to any of your emails and then find it out manually. And that cuts out pretty much different layers of communication. The last couple of things is the attachments. If you share any sort of files or attachment with them, such as mood board, you'll be able to find it over here. And lastly, the daily logs. So daily logs is your daily activities that you put for specific projects. So it's pretty much your client are in the known, and they have a better understanding of what's pretty much happening with the project. Now, some of the benefits of using this client dashboard is it's an interactive portal to look more professional and give your client more structure to it. It also creates a relationship of transparency by sharing all progress and details of the project in one place. And lastly, the client dashboard allows your client to self-serve and view key details of their project at any given time, giving them a peace of mind. So basically, through this client dashboard and this feature itself, your client can be informed, and they will be trusted, and they will be valued. And that's pretty much to sum up the client dashboard. And that concludes the deep dive into the project workflow. Now I'm going to pass it to Alexa for further Q&A.
I'm getting messages that people can see me now. Yay, good thing.
Yay.
Okay, so I did actually get one. Let me go back. RE invoicing and projects, I charge a procurement fee for some trades. So let's say I charge a 10% procurement fee for, let's say, a $20,000 painting job.
Yep.
Okay. So I charge the painter, and she invoices him, the painter, about 10%. How does she invoice them, as it does not come under the project?
So any documents that you create within House Pro needs to be linked to a specific project or a leads. So there isn't a way to create an invoice for a project or any other items that you create within House Pro and not have it linked. So you have to link it to a specific project. But if you are someone who asks for that procurement fee, we can always use our retainer function. And I'm happy to go that over with you after this session. You can do our one-on-one and show you how we can use our retainer feature, which essentially will give you that advanced fee that you can charge to your pro before you start any job.
Yeah. And then just to clarify on that, if you are paying the supplier, you can use this to create as a purchase order, to say. So that way you're tracking money going out of the project. And then if the painter is paying you, then you're able to create an invoice in a new separate project. And then this way you have a separate project for that trade, the painter, should I say, in this case only. So if that's a little confusing, more than happy to pop on a call after, and I'll follow up with you in relation to this so you can apply it best to your company.
Beautiful.
Any other general questions amongst the group? That was my only one that I had about, let's see, there might be one. You can set up a project for the supplier or invoice from zero to suppliers. Yes. Perfect.
So with the project tracker and the client dashboard, I think you were unavailable to take any Q&A. So just wanted to ask any of the audience member if you have any questions in those last two sections of the presentation today.
Nothing's come through yet. Another one, you guys, the client dashboard, game changer for your homeowners. Again, it creates such a user-friendly and great client experience on their end because it's just eliminating the admin that you're having to do. That's one thing that we hear all the time with the dashboard is that people, because you're constantly having to call them and update them. So use the live link, send that to your client so that they can access that and see everything in one central location. Alternatively, you could just share that link via email each day if you would like. And then it will just make a much better process on their end. One last question I did have. Can you see if an item has been invoiced in the tracker?
Absolutely. So all you have to do is locate that item, which you can use this filter option at the very top. Say, for example, this is one of the items.
You'll have to share your screen again to show that, Gary.
My apologies.
Yeah, all good.
As I mentioned, you can always find the status of the item from the project tracker. All you have to do is locate this column called status. As I mentioned, if you can't find that column, all you have to do is go to customize table and see if that option is switched on. So all you have to do is switch it on, and you can also move this position to somewhere at the very top. So from here, essentially, you will see the status of that specific item, whether it's in the invoice or PO or even in the proposals. Not only that, if you can also find the link to column where you can essentially have the documents there and you can land directly to that specific invoices. So for example, this one, I want to find out this item in the invoice. So all you have to do is click on invoice and it will take you to that specific invoice. Hope that answers your question.
Yeah. Let's see. That's it. All right, Gary, you are all good to stop sharing your screen. I don't have any other questions that have come through in the meantime. So that will conclude today's session. If anyone has any further questions following today's webinar series, feel free to follow up with us. You can always use the Help Center and the contact support in your Houzz Pro account. But we wish you a good rest of your day, and we hope to see you at our last session tomorrow where we'll talk about design tools. All right, everybody. Thanks so much.
Thank you, everyone.